few months ago I started on a valentines present for the missus, but 5 minutes in and I made a mistake that put an end to the project. So I decided to use some of the pieces to make an oak version of the propagation station that I bought for her as a backup present. This one was made with pine and it looks alright, but I know she'd like it to match some of her other holders that she has in oak. I wanted it to look almost identical, but the problem for me was making the box joints, so I decided to make them from strips of wood instead. Only I didn't know if it would work or not, but there was only one way to find out. So I started by cutting the oak up into more manageable pieces. I need to end up with 8mm by 8mm strips of oak. So to do this I used a combination of the chop saw, the table saw, the thicknesser and the bandsaw, and eventually I ended up with some nice looking strips of oak. Now you can sort of get an idea here of what I was trying to achieve. I'm hoping that if I glue up 6 pieces and cut the alternative pieces with an 8mm difference, then it will create a nice looking finger joint, but that's a theory anyway. To have the best chance of everything fitting properly, I trimmed the ends so that they were nice and square, being careful to watch out for flying off cuts. I cut all of the pieces to the specifications I made on the drawing, and then I used my table saw fence to make sure everything was the same length. I then did a dry fit using some of the offcut pieces to see if it would have a chance of looking alright. And to be honest, it didn't look too bad. So I sorted out which pieces would need gluing together, and I realised that I may have a problem if I put glue too close to the ends, so I left a bit of a gap. Now this wasn't a bad idea, but it did cause me a problem later on, which you'll see. Clamping them all was a little bit fiddly, but it wasn't impossible. Once the glue had dried, I did another test fit and it looked quite neat. I took some of the offcuts and I glued them up for a coaster. Then all the pieces got a quick sanding outside so that the workshop didn't fill up with sawdust. Now the hardest part of the project was marking out these holes. My eyesight isn't what it used to be, So I had to turn off the camera and get a magnifying glass so I could actually see where I was putting the pencil marks. I taped the two pieces together so that everything would line up properly, but it also helped reduce the tear out. After using the Forstner bits, I like to turn them by hand just to remove any burn marks and to level up all of the holes. If you do ever try this, just knock the plug off for obvious reasons. Now you can see here the problem that I had with not gluing to the ends, but it was easy enough to fix the problem with just a dab of glue. And then it was just a case of gluing everything together. I didn't need any clamps as the joints were tight enough as they were. Now there weren't really any gaps to shout about, but I just threw a bit of glue and some oak sawdust in just for belts and braces. A quick sanding removed any glue marks, and then I gave it a quick coating of wood butter that I'd got from William Head of WH Creations. I figured it would be the safest product to use around small plants, but it's also easy to apply and allows me to use and handle it straight away. So here's the coaster with a nice coating of wood butter just to finish it off. And here's the finished propagator.
Prior to making the videos on YouTube, I worked as a firefighter for nearly 20 years, serving my community and helping to save lives and promote the fire safety message. Unfortunately, an accumulation of many upsetting scenes became too much for my mind to cope with, and after years of failed therapy I was retired from the service on the grounds of ill health and signed off medically from any employment. To keep myself busy, both body and mind, I developed an interest in woodworking and car mechanics, and with already having a hobby in filming and music, I combined my interests and started making videos here on YouTube, filming, editing and composing my own music for my woodworking and car restoration channels Smugwood and Smugwood Mini. Unfortunately, to produce such videos comes at a price, and with minimal funds after being retired from employment, I've turned to Patreon to see if there is additional support out there which could allow me to continue making the woodworking and car restoration videos. In return for support, there are various levels which are explained in more depth at the Patreon link below, but includes the chance to win one of my YouTube projects made throughout the year, and also inclusion into random prize draws open to patrons only. In addition, I'd like to thank everybody who already subscribes to my channels, or watches, comments, likes and shares them, as it all goes to help support my channels, and for that I'm really appreciative. It's my hope that I can continue making the videos for the foreseeable future. Thanks once again for your continued support.